Not looking good.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council calls meeting to order. I'd like to announce an executive session that was held September 8, 2014 to discuss real estate personnel litigation. Now it's time to take public comment on non-agenda items. Does anyone have any comments? John, for you.
Yeah, there's an open scene I'm going around that states that the township purposely distributes an abbreviated bills list on the website prior to the US meetings. Could you explain how the bills list is put together and if anything is potentially left out?
I can handle that. The bills list, well, let me start with the current bills list. This bills list was prepared in the last, since the last meeting. And what the treasurer does is when a bill comes in, it gets inputted to the list. She gives Tammy, usually on the Friday before meeting, a draft bills list. It is draft. It is marked as draft. And when Tammy puts it on the website, it says that it's a draft bills list. That is the bills list as of that Friday. We get additional bills that come in over the weekend, usually the following Monday. And as a matter of course, we look at those bills, and many of those bills end up on the bills list because they're things that need to be paid before the next meeting. So consequently, there is a final bills list is prepared. That's what sits in the back there. That's what the board has in its book. And when the board looks at the bills list, they will always read the number that's approved, and that will match what your bills list is if you picked one up in the back. So, as a courtesy to people, we publish the bills list as of Friday on the website, but it is not the final bills list. It says it's a draft bills list. It says on the website that it's a draft bills list. For example, the bills list tonight, I believe there's 2 corrections on the bills list. And the bills list, if you look at it, you'll put on the website is in fact higher than the bills list which you picked up in the back of the room. What will happen tonight, assuming that the board approves the bills list, which I expect it will, because that's their, that's what they typically do. But if they approve the bills list, what happens tomorrow is our treasurer takes the bills list and all the checks get dated and sent. And what happens is the bills list zeroes out. And then what happens is she starts building a new bills list as the bills come in. So as the bills come in, they get added to the bills list. And this is something we've done for as long as I can remember. It's my direction from her that she do this, because my concern is if we don't put many of these bills on the bills list, we're either going to go finance charges, or they're going to get paid late, or otherwise there's going to be a problem. And what happens then is we end up paying the bill before the board approves it. We then, and you'll see it in some of the meetings, there's a ratification list, which means the township's already paid the bill, and we're asking the board to approve it after it's been paid. I don't like doing that. I think, although that's perfectly fine under the law. It says that the board has to approve the bill. It doesn't say if it's before or after. But I think the best practice is, and the practice we've been doing for a very long time, is to approve it before. If this is a problem, we can send out the bills list on Monday. But the problem then is people won't see what 90% or more of the bills list is going to be. So this is a courtesy that we do for people. It is marked draft, just like a draft agenda also goes out on Friday. It is marked draft, and guess what? It changes, and I think today it's changed like 3 or 4 times. It changes before the meeting.
Well, I know I can always expect, when I open up my mailbox on Saturday or Monday, there's gonna be a number of pieces of junk mail, there's also gonna be, that's a matter of course. So, thank you.
Okay, Artie, you had a question?
Yeah, and you just did a paving job on Horseshoe Trail up there. And it's a pretty nice job. Now, how long will that last before we have to tar and ship it or do anything else with it?
We'll tar and chip it next year.
You want to tar and ship it next year?
Yep.
Is there any reason why it's so soon after we put it down?
We found that if we use tar and chip a year after we pave a road, that 2 things happen. First off, the tractive capability of the surface is what they call it, it's not as slippery. And secondly, the pavement lasts a lot longer with the seal on top of it right away.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Okay. Other comments? Yeah, Brian Curry.
With the acquisition of the new police pickup, we've seen we have one excess police vehicle. You know, is that going to be disposed of, auctioned off? We're gonna hold it forever, it's gonna be an antique? What?
You want me to answer that? Current intention is that we're probably gonna put that on municipal and sell it. It does run, it has 190,000 miles plus on it.
Okay. And one other question, as I came in, they were talking about Bill's list. And Jim, you described the preparation of it. How is that prepared? Is that prepared using computer or typed up or what?
It is prepared using QuickBooks, so it's all done on the computer.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments?
Yeah, my name is Chris Peoples. I live on Old Kimberton Road. That's the spur that runs from Sloshers 113 to Kimberton. And, you know, it's the same road that there's a guy, Matlock, wanted to put Kimberton Hughes Apartments on. And fortunately, there was 5-acre zoning that prevented that. It's the same road that's of huge historic significance because it was a major thoroughfare for the Underground Railroad. In fact, there's a slave cave across the road from my house that tied into the Kimber Hall. It's very significant in that it's also the thoroughfare for Kimber Bray, which my father fought tooth and nail to keep from getting into West Vincent. And I want to make a comment that Chester County is in the top 10 counties in the entire United States to live. And within Chester County, there's only 2 areas that make that value. And that's this area up here where there's the open land of Dietrich and other landholders, and then down at the King Ranch area down in southern Chester County. I've noted on Kimberton Road the amount of traffic in the morning and afternoon is huge. And I've watched the newsletters on emails, and I note the whole thing that was Cutler and it's now Toll Brothers. And I will wager that Flint Road and Old Kimberton Road will become the major thoroughfare to cut to 113. And between my house and 113 are 3 bridges that have water passage underneath them that's greater than the one they just spent $1 million to replace in Chester Springs, in the village of Yellow Springs. Now, I want to know who's going to foot the bill for $3 billion worth of bridges on Kimberton Road when it becomes the thoroughfare for the Cutler property, and who's going to handle all that traffic? What roads? What provisions have been made for that? And then lastly, how do I, who have my quality of life compromised by this, my taxes go up because they always go up when there are more people, because they always want a chicken in every pot, and a fireman on every stoop, and a policeman in every driveway. And so all the taxes always go up. So I'm going to suffer. Not only am I going to have all these people shortcutting down the road at high rates of speed, I'm also going to have the bill for all the bridges. I'm also going to have the bill for all the roads, and my taxes are going to go up. How do I file a complaint, and how does the township compensate me for that? I will be injured. So will other people. And 2 years ago, I asked the supervisors, whatever happened to the 5-acre zone? Oh, we got rid of that in '94 or something like that. Well, if the state mandates there has to be area for trailer parks and there has to be area for high-density apartments, and we know that if you have 10 acres plus, it's considered farmland and your taxes go down, how come there's not an area within the township or the county where they designated as farmland 10 acres or more that would protect this way of life? Because once it's gone, there's nowhere else in Chester County. I guess the only place is southern Chester County you can go. Between here, Chester Springs, Birch Runville, Glenmore, that whole area is the last area where there's open land. Fox hunting can't happen anymore. Bass hunting doesn't happen anymore. It's all on the wayside. And that's the quality of life that makes Chester County one of the top 10 in the entire United States. So I guess what I'm asking is, how do you file a complaint that a township has to respond to legally? If I'm going to be compensated some way, obviously the township's not going to pay me money. It's going to cost me money if they keep doing granting subdivisions, and then not having the developer pay for the bridges and the roads. Is there an answer to that?
Can I?
You can try.
The answer is, a number of years ago, municipalities and other folks approached the Pennsylvania legislature to require exactly what you're talking about, which is to require the developers be required to be responsible for infrastructure which does not touch their development. Pennsylvania legislature decided in its wisdom not to make that requirement. So it is state law that you're really complaining about. And in that respect, you really need to talk to your state legislatures, because they're the ones who, in fact, are responsible for the requirements. A couple of requirements. One is people are entitled to develop their land. And second of all, the requirement that developers are not responsible for infrastructure other than infrastructure that touches their development. Those were things that were asked for, and those were defeated by the Pennsylvania state legislature. So what the township is doing is township is merely following state law as it's required to do. If you have a suggestion that state law needs to be changed, I suggest you talk to your state senator and your state representative, because they're the people who can change it for you, not the people in front of you.
And the zoning went from 5 acres to something less for what reason? In '94?
The zoning changed in 1998, and it went to a tiered system. It is not so simple to say 5 acre, 3 acre, 2 acre. And what happened more recently is about, what was it, a year ago, April, the township decreased the density that's allowable in the township in the residential district. So the township has heard what people said about density, where the township participates in regional zoning, which has allowed the township to do that. Absent that, the township is bound by, again, state law and judicial decisions that interpret state law. And those decisions say that 5 acre zoning is not legal.
Is designating, if you can designate that there's a trailer park, and also designate that there's a farm area?
Agricultural zoning doesn't exist in Chester County. Attempts to put ag zoning in Chester County have met with great resistance by, among other people, the farmers, because what has happened is the farmers have borrowed money based on the development potential of their property, and if the township were to change that zoning, it in fact basically makes the loans that the farmers have unsustainable, and therefore that creates a real problem for the farmers in Chester County. Those counties who have ag zoning, like Lancaster County, have had it forever, and that's not a problem. But efforts to put ag zoning in Chester County have met with significant resistance, and the number one area of resistance is the farming community.
If I could add one more thing. You asked how you would register a complaint, and I think you just did. I think the three of us as supervisors have all gone on record that we would like to protect the rural character of West Vincent. we're not gonna be able to do that completely. And eventually, development's gonna happen, but it's happening very slow. And we have the ordinance is in place, not that they couldn't be tweaked, but, yeah, we just.
Yeah, I
we
guess
have
I
to
just,
follow.
there's no crime unless there's an injured party, and I'm claiming that I would be an injured party, both financially and through a change in the whole character of my life, because of, and I think Dave walks along that road all the time. I'm sure that he doesn't do it in the morning or in the afternoon, because it's people are in a rush to get to work. And I can't imagine and then there's something about the Toll Brothers thing, they wanted to have old people that are going to increase the density and have old people there. How's that decrease the traffic? I've known old people that they forget that they went to the store already,
I
they go
think
again.
the age restricted means you and me, Chris.
And that, Chris, that's just been something that was suggested to us. It's not in front of us for action.
Thank you.
Okay, other comments? Approve the minutes of the September 8th and 26th meetings. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. Motion made and seconded. Are there any comments? All those in favor? Aye. Managers report, Jim?
Just a couple of things to note. One is 25 new recommended requests in the past 2 weeks. Township received over $77,000 from the state for its yearly contribution to its employee pension plans. It also received firemen's relief funds for the state. As I'm sure many people know, Township continues to make a lot of repairs to roads and recently milled and repaved Ocean Trail. In terms of township meetings, there is an important meeting of the Northern Federation of Chester County Communities tomorrow night. I think it's at 7:30.
I think it's at 7.
Or it's at 7 at the Warwick Township Building. This is a meeting, they're going to have a couple people speak about what municipalities can potentially do in terms of tweaking their zoning to deal with new applications for pipeline transmission companies. So there'll be a discussion of that tomorrow night. Monthly Planning Commission meeting will be held this coming Thursday here at 7:30. The Sustainability Committee will meet next Tuesday at 7:30. And the next board meeting is Monday, October 27th.
Treasurer's report, Jim?
Treasurer's report, this is for the month ending August 31st, 2014. Revenues, earned income taxes, $159,315.69. Real estate, $9,327.64. Transfer taxes of $24,017.93. Open space taxes is $77,472.21. Other, $88,784.40. Excuse me, for a total of $358,917.87. To approve bills list, one of 811, $145,311.48. One of 825, $106,346.99. For a total of $251,658.47. Payroll was $91,549.26. There were no payment on any debt. And as of the end of that month, fund balances, general fund, $1,661,180.94. Open space taxes, $1,785,811.04. Liquid fuel funds of $233,597.87.
Okay, thanks, Jim. The road manager's report for September of 2014, conducted ongoing maintenance and repair on township equipment. Filled potholes in various locations in the township, mowed several roads in the township, removed down tree from DeWeese Lane, cleaned out inlets on various roads, worked with contractor on repairs to Sawmill Road and Lexington Boulevard, paved driveway at the new township park, and began repairs to Horseshoe Trail. I saw Austin left. Does that mean there's no police report?
Well, I can do the police report
Okay.
if you want.
Okay.
During the month of August, the West Vincent Township Police Department responded to 215 calls for service, including the following: the arrest of a 47-year-old male from Westchester for DUI in the 3000 block of Conestoga Road, and a 56-year-old female was cited for harassment after an incident at a residence in the 1800 block of Kimberton Road.
That subdivision list shows nothing needs action at tonight's meeting. The bills list is next. The Township General Fund bills list, $56,910.80. The reimbursable bills list, $168,069.25. The subdivision utility plant bills list is $29,961.75. For a total bills list of $254,941.80 as of October 13, 2014.
Move the approval of the bills list as submitted.
Any comment? Artie?
Second.
Oh, sorry. Artie?
Summer and Zims for AC maintenance. And I assume that was for one of the pieces of equipment?
It was for the office and the road department.
Oh, for the office, okay, thank you.
Other comments? Bills list? Brian?
On the Blasinski bill, wood removal, where did the wood come from?
Stumps that was dug out along the road over the summer.
Okay. Under Carroll Engineering, we've got two items, one for trail map and one for paving program. What exactly do we get for the trail map bill?
Actually, it's not a trail map. It is actually to design the trail, design the fellowship trail.
Okay.
What we're getting is the design of that trail.
Okay, so that's the fellowship trail project. Fine, thank you. Next is the paving program. What is the paving program?
Later on the agenda, there's a item about proposed road improvements. There was some work that Carroll Engineering did for the township.
Okay, when were they charged with doing that work? Or assigned the task, maybe a better way to say it for you?
6 weeks ago, Jim, you said?
Yeah.
Not the trail thing, I'm not sure about.
The trail thing was actually assigned at a meeting. I don't remember what meeting that was.
No, I asked them specifically about the paving program.
Okay, I think it was about 6 weeks ago. Yes,
What's that again?
about 6 weeks ago, I believe.
Okay. Francis Hall, insurance and risk. Two small items in this one. What are we covering with insurance on that one? They're $473 and $470.
That was an item that was left out of the invoice that they sent us recently. It's for terrorism coverage.
Okay. Let's hope we don't have to ever use that one. There's a large bill for highway materials for asphalt for Horseshoe Trail. And I thought that was being covered by liquid fuels. Why does it show up as a township charge?
We had to do, if you remember in the 10 bid documents, there's 100 square yards of base repair.
Okay.
And that's what most of that was used for. But there was also a small amount used, not included in that bid, but work that needed to be done was we had to raise 13 inlets, I think, to match the new paving, and it was the asphalt used around those raised inlets.
Okay, so in other words, even though it's a liquid fuels job, that part of it is not payable with liquid fuels funds?
Right, that's right.
Okay. There's a thing here for Schuylkill Township. Bill Police Joint Municipal Live Scan Fees. What's live scan?
It is a software program that allows, I believe it's the fingerprinting program, and there are 8 municipalities that split the cost of it. And Schuylkill Township fronts the payment, and the other municipalities reimburse it for their share.
Okay, no, it's something we share with other townships again.
And we share with 7 other townships.
Okay, there's a thing from International Cartridge Corporation for Bill Police equipment for about $1,500. Is that practice rounds and stuff like that?
Have to ask the police about that.
Okay. Service truck tire centers, scrap tire removal. Do we somehow inherit a whole bunch of scrap tires?
Yeah, we can pick them up along the roads.
Okay.
You know, people discard them along the roads, and then residents call us to pick them up.
Okay, it's something that I've never even considered doing. Okay.
You need to be roadmaster for a day, it'd be amazing.
I've seen stuff dumped around on my road, but never tires. There's a Sprint bill for emergency management, and it's for like $152. Is there some reason why they weren't included in the $20 a month reimbursement program, like with the road crew and for Jim and I guess you guys on the board?
Not up there.
And he means maybe the $20 reimbursement. I don't know about emergency management, I don't know.
Okay. Ocean Port LLC. We've got 2 deliveries of salt, and I take it we're getting salt while we can before everybody else is charging after that. About what percentage is of our total salt storage do we have filled at this point?
We're about 80% full right now.
Okay. So looking at this, between these purchases and when we bought back in April, we have approximately then 500 tons in storage.
I'd say maybe a little more.
Okay. And I noticed also that we changed from having the township pay for the salt to using liquid fuels funds for paying for the salt this time around. Is there some reason for that?
You know, we had the money in the liquid fuels fund, and it qualifies for liquid fuels expenditure.
Okay. And the last one is the mowing of the spray field growth. How tall was the grass when it was mowed?
18 inches, 2 feet,
18 inches?
or 2 feet. Some of it was 4 feet, some of it was 6 inches.
Well, then how are we complying with the sewage treatment plant permit?
I just mow when the operator tells me to mow.
Okay, but you're saying there was about 18 inches to 2 feet when you mowed it?
I would say, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments on the bills list? Okay, motions were made and seconded because there's a bill payable to be on the bills list. I can't vote on. So, David,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
under correspondence, the Diwali 2014 food drive is on October 25th, 2014. Jim, anything you want to add to that?
I think this is the second year of this. It is through a group in Buyer Station, and they consider our Eagle Farm subdivision part of Buyer Station. I believe last year they collected something like 10,000 pounds of food, so it is a quite large food drive. It is part of a festival that is celebrated in India, and it does raise a lot of food which is donated to the Chester County Food Bank.
Okay. We have a request for the Locust Corner Fire Department Police to attend the Ellerson Halloween Parade.
Where are they gonna go us?
Fire police, I bet. It's on October 15th. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
We have a request to use the meeting room from the Stone Cross Homeowners Association on October 28th.
With the approval of the use of the, assuming there's no conflict.
That's correct.
Yep.
Second.
Any comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nothing on the subdivision land development. Under old business, we have the UCC Appeals Board. Jim, do you want to?
Yeah, this was actually on your agenda for your last meeting, which was canceled for lack of a quorum. What you need to do is authorize the, since this is an ordinance, the publication, so this can be considered at your next meeting.
Would you just go over once again what this is actually doing?
Yeah, the township is required to have a UCC appeals board. The UCC is the Uniform Construction Code. The township has not had an appeals board. This is setting up a joint appeals board with North and South Coventry. This will not cost the township anything. It will be, the cost will be borne by the applicants, which will file applications with that board. This is something that the township should have by state law. We currently do not have it, and this is a way of working with other townships to provide a UCC appeals board for ourselves and also for those other townships. And so, what I would ask is the board approve publication of the ordinance, which is also, will be considered at the next meeting. There is an agreement between the two townships to do this, which is part of the whole process.
Have the other, I'm sorry, have the other townships approved it already?
Other townships have already approved it. We've already received copies of their ordinance, of their signed ordinances.
Move the approval of the ordinance for the UCC Appeals Board for publication.
Second.
Any comments? Brian?
What township initiated this idea?
I don't know.
That is, actually, I believe it was West Vincent.
Okay, and if I remember right from earlier conversations, there's only like 2 other townships that are participating with us, North and South Coventry.
That's correct.
Were other townships contacted about participating?
My understanding is that other townships were contacted, and I believe other townships either had their own UCC appeals board or had other agreements with other municipalities to have UCC boards.
Okay, thank you for the expansive answer.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Multimodal study. Jim, do you want to, oh, I'm sorry.
Kate Damsgaard is out of town this evening, so she couldn't be here, but she sent me a letter and asked me to read it out loud regarding the multimodal study. And this is from Kate. I would like to thank the multimodal task force members, Adrian Boyans, Brad Dyer, Victoria Walbach, William Dietrich, Bob Phillips, Rusty Strauss, West Vincent Elementary School Principal Ed Smith, Jake Michael from the county, Jim Wendelgas, Ken Miller and Claire Cohn, our consultants, McMahon Associates, and Brandy White Conservancy, our funders, the Chester County Vision Planning Partnership Program, and all the township residents who contributed to drafting of this study. I'm proud of this document. I believe it will serve as an effective planning tool to ensure that township residents will be able to circulate around our area in a non-vehicular manner. It is important to keep this issue in front as the township experiences heavy development pressure for so many reasons, be it improving the physical health of our residents or the maintenance of a strong sense of community, ensuring better environmental quality, or just plain fairness, i.e. allowing residents who cannot drive the car to get around. I look forward to the next phase, implementation. I urge the supervisors to appoint a multi-board committee at their January organizational meeting, if not before, to assist in that process. In fact, Weatherstone residents, among others, have already started taking the first steps. I was thrilled to see the success of the first walk school bus event held on October 8th at the West Vincent Elementary School. Huge kudos to all who organized and ran the event aimed at encouraging kids to walk to school and to walk in general. And to you at the front of the table tonight, many thanks to the board for your past support of our multimodal planning efforts. It has helped make our community a better place to live. That was from Kate. I also would like to just thank you as a resident and as the project manager for the study, for your support for the planning and efforts along with the multimodal transportation study. So I think at this point, the county has reviewed it and has accepted it, and I think tonight we're asking you to accept this study as well.
In accepting this, we're accepting the report, right? We're not committing to doing anything.
Correct.
And if, as my understanding is, if we, once we accept the report, we're eligible for reimbursement of $25,000 from the county, is that correct?
Not eligible, you will receive.
We will get it.
With the letter from the county, they've approved the plan, and they've approved payment to the township of the $25,000 grant, which is the only condition upon that grant is that the township accept the study.
So there's no commitment, it's just that we want $25,000.
Well, yes, and,
I do.
yeah, I understand that, and to accept the study, look at the RFP, which was fairly short, which the township issued, which the winning bidders bid on, that was accepted. We then went to the county, to the Vision Partnership Program, and made the grant application. And the county's been involved in this the whole way, and they've approved the final report of the study.
I move we accept the report.
I'll second.
Any comment? Brian Curry.
One single comment. I was curious how my concerns were addressed in the final report.
Those concerns were considered by the consultants and by members of the task force. And I know there were quite a number of changes that were made as a result of not just your comments, but other public comments that were made.
Okay, Brian?
I don't think it really answers the question, but I suspect I can't get a true answer anyway. Okay.
Other comments? Motion's been made, second, all those in favor?
It's accurate. It's what? It's inaccurate.
Okay, park use ordinance is next. John, I know that you would, asked this to be on the agenda.
Yeah, Jim gave us this, a recap of this. This is an ordinance that, for the guidelines whenever we approve for the use of the park. And Jim, if I'm not correct, it opens it up to all people, not just West Vincent residents.
That's correct.
Does it have a provision to give, in case of a tie, West Vincent residents priority?
Yes, it does. Section 2.
And I think the discussion that we had as supervisors was to limit it to West Vincent residents or to open it up. And my feeling was that we should open it up. Upper Yukon residents live right next door to us in many cases, and until it becomes a problem, let's continue the way it's been.
I agree with you. Has the Park and Rec Committee signed off on this?
It's basically the same thing that we already have as a resolution.
Do we have something in writing from them, know that they read this and are okay with it?
Yes. And that would be nice, don't
Yeah, okay. We can certainly get that.
Okay, thanks. Building use policy.
The same thing for using, Jim, this is for use of this room, the meeting rooms.
Yes.
And it is open to residents and non-residents on a case-by-case basis, approval basis. And again, my thoughts on that was that until it becomes a problem, let's continue the way it always has been.
Is there a cost of maintenance component to that?
There hasn't been yet. The user have been very responsible about cleanup, and we haven't had to do anything extra. I think what John said, until it's time to make a change, we'd like to continue the way we are. Is that, a mouse just ran through the lobby.
Charge him.
Just for a little further.
It's okay, it was only this big.
It was a West Vincent mouse.
Right.
I hope.
Gosh. You got extra cats in the barn.
I think the only problem that we've ever had on that was that one group in here used glitter, and I still see some of the glitter in the grain of the table.
Yeah, but they advised us right away that they were having a heck of a time getting it off the table.
Yeah, and I remember Alan Greenwood at the meeting just after that, and he touched his face and he had glitter all over his face. But that's, I mean, people have been very responsive today, and we've worked very closely with people in terms of providing and making sure that, you know, they took care of trash and everything else. People have been very good about it, and when they're not, we'll still inform the board.
So, what do we want to do?
One other clarification.
Oh, sorry.
I have a question.
Okay.
Is there, when someone rents the room, is there like a list of rules and regs, or same question goes to the gazebo? Do they get like written documentation as to what they're responsible for?
So I don't think they do.
The gazebo, yes, here.
Here they don't, and there's no fee to use here. There's only a fee for.
No, I
electric
mean, like, how
employees.
would they know that they need to take the trash out if we don't tell them?
Because
So it
county
might
tells
not
them
be
to, but maybe it'd be a good idea to have a written policy to hand out.
just a handout, so
Yeah,
there's
email to
no,
them.
you know, it always
Yeah.
makes good neighbors.
Yep. Yeah, we haven't had the need, but that doesn't mean we won't have the need, so better off to get ahead of it.
The only other discussion is that I think does this include both meeting rooms or just this one?
Well, I think it would include both. We try not to schedule things for the other meeting room just because there's much more limited access to it. It can be, we do it when there's other people in the building. It's just that it's very difficult to use that room when there's no township employees around.
My only concern is if there's documents left in that room, could that,
Well, I mean, there's very limited documents in that room. Most of the documents in that room are actually materials from the Historic Resource Committee. There's really not much else. And where we are right now is that when that room is used, all the upstairs and my office is locked, and access to the main building is also prohibited through locked doors.
Okay.
yeah.
So do we want to, what do we do?
All we have to do is make a motion to approve this?
Yeah, this is just a policy, this is not an ordinance, so it doesn't need to be advertised. It can, consistent with what you just said, we should give a list of the rules of what's required.
Yeah.
Adopting this kind of allows you to do that because there are rules of conduct in here.
Then I'll make the motion that we approve the policies as written.
Second. Sorry.
No, I'm just going to put the date on it, you can find this document June 20th, 2014.
Excuse me, motion's been made and seconded, is there any comment? All's in favor?
Aye.
Mailing list policy? Question is, if somebody wants to use the township mailing list, they're going to use it, isn't that right? The answer for me is no.
No here.
And if you look at the draft we have, if you take out the language that's in color, it will prohibit it being made available to outside parties. So that would be the policy that would prevent it from.
So mailing list could only be used by township business,
Right.
which means supervisors and manager.
The various committees of the Township Government Planning Commission. So, in the interest of full disclosure, I sit on the board of the West Vincent Land Trust, which has requested the use of the township mailing list. And I'm saying that, although we vote against sharing the mailing list with anyone, including the West Vincent Land Trust.
So would the Westminster Land Trust be allowed to use it?
No.
Okay.
Is this ready, something we can make a motion and vote on, Steve?
Well, you have a policy, again, like the other item that we just approved. I want to point out the language in blue, paragraph 1, that seems to state that the list will not be available to outside parties, and then there's, except for legitimate purposes approved by the board.
Right, no, what I said before is take out all the language in color.
Okay, so that's gone.
That's gone.
All right.
As is the color.
And the red's out too.
Red's out too.
All right, I thought it was just the red.
Nope.
All right, so that shuts it down.
So then, item number 1 says, the list of current residents is a confidential document that belongs to Westminster Township for purposes related to the government of the township. It will not be made available to outside parties.
Period. Right.
Number 2 says, electronic lists whose future usage cannot be controlled will not be made available to outside parties. Period. Okay, and there are the 2 important things. So, John, David, you agree?
I do. Move the approval of this policy with the blue and red language deleted.
Second.
Any comment? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Griner is next.
You missed one.
Oh, table meeting, I'm sorry, table meeting policy. Table meeting policy.
The meeting policy was tabled at a previous meeting. I believe take 2 tabling something?
Yeah.
Tabling something is essentially taking an item and removing it from consideration. And then when the board wants it back for consideration, we then vote to bring it back for consideration.
You're saying we need to do that 2 or 3 times?
No, we need 2 or 3 members to bring it back from being tabled.
Okay.
I'll just assume the table.
I also,
Well, I would rather not. I'd rather bring it forward and just put it to bed once and for all.
Want to make a motion, David?
motion, well, I don't think we have to make a motion, do we?
Oh.
To keep the
Okay,
table.
so we take no action, and it stays tabled?
Right.
I think that's what we'll do, John.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what's being tabled?
Not being tabled, it's not being untabled.
I think on table, you want to make a motion. He wants to make the motion, bring it back, and then if nobody else seconds it, it fails.
Okay.
And that's the way you need to do that.
Well, do we want to answer her question about what we're actually talking about? This is a small document that just has rules and regulations for how we conduct these meetings, and it's pretty simple.
I think if it's been tabled, we shouldn't be discussing it.
I don't believe it was tabled. She asked a question, so I'll leave it up to you then, Taylor.
You know when it was tabled?
No, it was tabled, and
Right.
but that doesn't mean we can't discuss it. Table means it's not going to be up for a vote, right?
Right.
And since she had a question, I mean, does that answer, or do you want more?
Okay.
Maria?
So if this is being tabled, one of the items in that policy was the removal of public comment notes, person and subject. And I don't remember that ever being voted on as from the supervisors to say that we're going to now stop taking public comment, or not taking public comment, but recording it in public meeting minutes. So where does that stand in this? Because
I think what she's saying is if you go back through at least January and February, anybody that spoke as a non-agenda item was listed in the minutes. Tammy, am I correct in that?
You're correct.
And somehow without a motion, without anything else, it just ceased to happen. So maybe, Steve, we're doing this the wrong way. Maybe we need a motion to eliminate it.
To eliminate.
my question is who decided to make that stop, and was it a board decision?
I don't recall a board decision.
I don't either.
So,
To my knowledge, there was no board decision. There was a
Okay.
discussion on it, there have been many discussions on the topic of what goes in minutes, what goes out, or what doesn't have to, and the various approaches to minutes.
so my question then would be, is that the proper way to do business in this township, that somebody who is remaining nameless made a decision that affects all the rest of us, and it wasn't made by our supervisors who are our elected officials?
Well, the minute, how this happened was, there was a recommendation of council that such was not necessary. The minutes have been drafted since then and have been approved by the board every single time without that in it. And so the board has in fact approved of this way of drafting the minutes.
So do we
By
now
de
have
facto?
to- So now do we-
No, I don't think that's the way our government runs.
So do we now have to make a motion that everybody who speaks is included in the minutes and put that forward for the next meeting or this meeting? Or how do we do it so that comments by different township members are recorded as opposed to just negated? Because I would bet you that most of the people, I don't read the minutes, frankly, and I bet most people don't. So how do we get around that to
How
come back
about
to?
I make a motion that the people that speak in public comment, their names are recorded in the minutes?
And their
Anybody second
comment. And their comment?
But
I'll
tell you
second
the subject,
Yeah.
Yeah.
name and subject.
Comments only, not questions, because it's public comment. If you got questions, get on the agenda. That's what I'd like to happen, so we can have a serious discussion, so questions can be answered at the meeting. Brian, you ask me questions, I don't know the answer, I say, email me your questions, you never do. So what was the point of asking me the question? You didn't want the answer.
All right,
No,
but my
You
question
haven't
would
gotten
be,
around to it yet.
Yeah, okay.
my question would be, like, Mr. Peoples spoke, would that be in the
Yeah, it would.
minutes?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
I think that it should be. I think that was an important topic,
Yeah.
and it would be sad not to have that included in the minutes.
Right, John or David, what do you think of that?
I think if we're gonna do that, we should have some sort of requirement that the summary be very brief. Otherwise, we're gonna have the minutes running on forever and encourages.
Well, let's see what happens before we consider a time constraint.
We did it for a very long time, and then it just stopped. So,
I
you know.
think what David was saying was the substance in the minutes would be brief as opposed to a time.
Right.
And I think what I heard before that was the name of the individual and the topic, not
Right.
necessarily
Right.
And a summary.
a recap or a summary.
I think you should have a small summary. It doesn't have to be paragraphs.
I think Tammy always did a great job at recording it before, but it just stopped. And it just leaves a lot of people questioning, why did it stop?
Well, I'll agree with Susan that we can have a recap of the conversation, I guess, with a presentation by the individual. Is that what you're thinking of, Susan? Suzanne?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
If you do that, though, does that mean that that individual quoted in the minutes or
Yep.
characterized in the minutes can challenge the minutes? If he or she feels that they weren't?
Because that was the issue previously.
Yeah, well, let's see how it works. If it doesn't work, I'll be the first to make a motion to rescind it.
There were people who felt they were not properly quoted, so simplifying.
But nothing ever changed if that did happen. They said that the minutes couldn't be changed, so what's the difference?
We're trying to correct that, though.
Brian, you have your hand up?
If I remember right from the law says that if the resident comes with a concern, now a concern could be a straight comment, or it could be in the form of a question.
I think, Brian, that the
You may not be able to answer the question, or you can go and say, listen, I'll have to get back to you or write it down to me. That's fine, but it still is a concern.
Brian, with all due
You
respect,
misquoted the solicitor, Brian.
I don't remember anything in the law that talks about concerns. What the law says is, note the names of all citizens who appeared officially and the substance of their testimony. We went round and around on what is appearing officially and what is testimony. And the comment that I made was that you do not need to, as a matter of law, include in the minutes the names of people who are commenting publicly or raising questions. That's as a legal matter.
We did go round and round on that, and you're, I believe, referring to the section of the law that talks about meeting minutes. And I am referring to the section of the law that says that at every public meeting, there's supposed to be a period, a non-agenda item period, where residents, actually it may be a little bit more expansive, but it says that they can come forth with their concerns. My argument was that that is an official presentation. I think you were arguing that it was not.
My recollection is this is why it was tabled.
So a motion's been made, is anybody want to second it, or just drop it?
But can you give me that motion just so I know exactly where we are?
I don't know what I said.
You said that, I believe what you've said is that you've made a motion to include the names of those appearing and making public comment and a summary of the subject that they're commenting on.
Regarding only of the capturing of the minutes by county, not this document.
Yes.
That's correct.
Document has nothing to do with it.
Documents not.
That's my intent. Yeah. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion, any comment?
I'm just curious about something. How does one address in a formal way the governing body of the township? I mean, it doesn't appear on, if I write a letter to the township for public consumption of people that live in the township, how do those people ever see it? Is there a place on the website where people submit
Let
things?
me introduce you to Ginger.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, if people, is there an area?
That would be a good place
I've
for
really
like
investigated
a section on the website for
the
that.
website, if there's a place for commentary on things that.
Not to my knowledge, unless you post it on a bulletin board at the Bertrandville Post Office.
Could get out of hand.
That could be a-
Or some other website, yes.
So there's no way for the public within the township to formally raise a topic?
Well,
No,
You did tonight, Chris.
But that was what part of this discussion was, if
Or
If-
you
if-
could put it in correspondence.
do you have to sue to do it? I mean, what, is there a
But you
legal?
No, Chris, you could ask to be placed on the agenda, on the meeting agenda, and then you would be appearing on official business. Which is, so that's one way to get before the governing body. Disseminating what it is you want to say or address to the balance of the residents or the world is another issue. The township, will publish minutes that'll have some content in it, and those get posted on the website. But it's really not the role of the township to disseminate verbatim or what any resident brings forward in toto. But the topic would be out there. And now the summary of the substance, but actually that would be official business. So there'd probably be a lengthier conversation on that if you were to bring something forward and appear on the agenda.
So one would propose something and it would be reviewed, so you had answers or before the meeting?
Not necessarily. It would be discussed, and if I think it had
And
to be
discussed
reviewed-
at the meeting? and
discussed at the meeting, and then maybe reviewed in further depth, and then back on the agenda again for some comment.
Okay. Okay, Chris?
Yes.
Suzanne?
It was my understanding, and I could be wrong, so maybe this needs some clarification, that, and maybe this will help Chris, that if a resident came to you and read out a letter, and then gave it to Tammy, as long as it wasn't 5 pages or something horrific, that would be a part of the minutes. So if Chris wanted to make a comment and put it in a letter form, and presented it to you as the Board of Supervisors in either the public comment on non-agenda items or during the course of that correspondence and reading of that into the minutes would constitute part of the minutes.
That's up to the board.
No, I
The board
think,
could do that, but the board has, the board receives letters from lots of different people, and there are certain letters where they're not appropriate to be attached to the minutes.
the letter itself would not become part of the minutes. The letter would be in the township building. If anybody wanted to get it, they could submit a right to know request or make an appointment to come in and take a peek at it, review it, but it wouldn't become part of the minutes.
Okay. Other comments? Okay, motions from made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Griner, item number 16.
A person had called and asked to be put on the agenda, and they called earlier today and asked, and informed us that they would not be here tonight.
Okay. West Vincent Township, under new business, West Vincent Township drop-off point for the common agent.
Yeah, we've been asked by the Coventry Food Pantry to be a drop-off point for various items. There's a sign and a basket in the lobby. They're looking for canned goods, peanut butter, jelly, cleaning supplies, personal supplies, paper products, laundry detergent, diapers, and wipes. The Coventry Food Pantry supports families throughout the Ellen J. Roberts School District with the various donations. Appreciates everyone's generosity.
What's the time frame for collection, or is this going to be ongoing?
It's pretty much ongoing,
Thank you.
Is it gonna be on the township website?
yes.
Next item is number 18, Delta Dental, HIPAA agreement for business. Jim, can we go over that?
This is under HIPAA, and this is, which is a federal act that relates to health. A lot of the providers are providing us with agreements that are required by HIPAA that are called business associate agreements. These are in compliance with the HIPAA law, and Delta Dental has come to us and asked the township to sign a business associate agreement with it.
So are your insureds using Delta Dental for their dental services?
That's correct.
Does this cover all our employees, Jim?
Close enough.
Who uses it?
Delta Dental pretty much covers all the employees. I'm trying to think if there's anyone who doesn't have it. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head.
What is an associate's agreement?
It is a 7-page, single-spaced agreement which talks about confidentiality and the requirements on both sides to keep any information with respect to the individual and whatever their care is confidential.
That's part of life.
But there is a provision under HIPAA that appears to now require these agreements.
But that's
Helps
already
her.
provision.
I get up all the
I
time.
don't think you have.
I understand that.
Did you get the
All I'm
agreements at all?
saying is that
No.
the various insurance companies are now coming to their insureds and asking for these agreements.
I've been doing agreements for 5, 6 years. It is.
Jim, does this mean you'll have to distribute 7 pages to every single employee?
No,
Da-da-da-da-da-da?
no.
Yeah,
It just says that if the township should somehow come into confidential information that it will not use or otherwise distribute or disseminate that confidential information.
You also have to notify.
Do you have to publish your policy?
If you didn't destroy it
I
or
don't need to
whatever.
publish it, send it out.
If it was late, there's all kinds of rules to it.
Post
No, not to my knowledge, no.
I think Steve's saying we have to approve this document.
And authorize someone to execute.
Want to make a motion, John?
I'll make the motion that we approve this document and authorize someone to sign it.
Second.
Any comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
We have a stormwater maintenance agreement for 1908 French Creek Road. We have a letter from Township Engineer, our zoning officer, finding the stormwater revisions proposed to meet requirements under the simplified approach for the stormwater ordinance in West Vincent. The agreement will need to be executed and recorded per the ordinance.
Is this the first one of these we've gotten, Jim?
This is the first one of these that we've gotten. These are the coming wave of agreements. Again, this is under the simplified approach, that if it's a larger project, it will be under a different approach, but these agreements are required by the new stormwater ordinance that is, pretty much, it's now adopted by 100% of the municipalities in Chester County. These need to essentially go with the land, and they get recorded with the county.
So it's going to require Board of Supervisors approval?
They're required board of supervisors. I don't know how otherwise to do it. I mean, it's an agreement with the township, unless the solicitor can indicate that there's a way to have these agreements without board approval.
When I was reading the stormwater management thing, they had provisions in there that they could be reviewed at the township, even on a simple one, by an engineer. Is that something that's practical in this case, or not?
It's been done.
Yeah, I mean, this was reviewed by the engineer. And the engineer has signed off on the engineering approach to this particular project.
It's almost like, approving the mini land development plan. You would sign that plan to be recorded, and they're kind of requiring the same process to say, hey, sign the BMP agreement on behalf of the municipality. needs the county maybe do it.
The only problem I have with this is it gives us what,
Our engineer has to
3.5
review
minutes
each
to
one of
look
these
at it and
things.
understand it and then sign
I
it.
don't think
Well,
the French.
you can read this.
It's not gonna look
You can certainly take your time.
bad.
This is
It's
something
just from where
that is going to happen. It's just that this is the first one. And,
Yeah.
You just funnel it right into the creek.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Jim, could you give me real quick what's going on in this thing? So I don't have to-
well, it provides that the landowner's going to use certain best management practices on the property to deal with the stormwater that's going to be generated by the work that they're going to have done. So it provides that they're going to inspect, operate, and maintain those best management practices.
No, I mean, what are they actually going to do?
What are they actually going to do?
32 square foot addition.
Yeah, it's an addition.
Master bedroom
How
and
much?
garage. 1,132. I'm just thinking of all the recording fees that the recorder of deeds office picks up over a 7-page document that has to be recorded and, all the recording that's going to go on.
And this is on French Creek Road, that's like off floodplain anyway?
No, it's on the other side of the road, it's actually way up on the hill.
Oh, okay.
It's on the
That's good to
driveway
know.
up the hill. It's like 30 feet above those.
All right, well, that's good to know. I'm glad to hear
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Now, would they have had to do anything if it was under 1,000 feet?
No.
I don't know, what's the,
No.
Ice falling
No.
apart.
No, it's under 1,000 feet, the answer is
32
no,
feet.
because it's over 1,000 feet, under 2,000
Yep.
feet, it's in what's called the simplified process.
Additional.
Scrape off 32 feet.
So basically, they're B's that they have to
It's
follow
so
based on
cool.
the plan.
They have to install them, inspect them, maintain them, and they give the municipality the right to inspect them and,
And to enter onto the property and maintain them if the landowner fails to do so.
that's correct, and provides for certain rights and remedies should they not do so.
Do we have any stormwater police on staff at this point?
It's called the zoning officer. You know, and this is something, obviously, this will go in the parcel file. Now, the good thing about this is that this will now memorialize what's being done, so that we now have it, we'll have an access agreement which says that if they don't maintain it, that we can go in and inspect to make sure that it is maintained, it's being done. I mean, one of the problems with a lot of the stormwater facilities has been is they get installed pursuant to, you know, an engineered plan, and then they get forgotten. And that's a problem, and that's one of the things, one of the main things the county has been trying to remedy by the model ordinance.
I'm prepared to act on this now, but just in the future, because I don't want to hold up a landowner on something so small. But I would appreciate it if I got this, several days in advance, so we don't hold somebody up.
before we vote on or after we vote on, this really doesn't have anything to do with this application, and I'm all for approving it. I got a sort of a, so if they have more than 1,000 square feet of disturbance, if they have more than 1,000 square feet of disturbance, they have to have,
They're in the simplified process, yes.
right. So the rain garden is 300 square feet of disturbance. So if their additional was 700 square feet, was the rain garden add to it to make it 1,000 square feet?
No, if it's under, if it's.
Why doesn't the rain garden count as disturbance?
That's how.
See what I'm saying?
I understand that, that's how the ordinance, well, but they wouldn't do the rain garden if they're less than 1,000 feet.
Yeah,
The rain garden has to be a third of the size.
okay. You're pretty slick the way they wrote it. Okay, motions were made and seconded, any comments?
Wait, we made a motion?
Yeah, John did.
Second.
Okay,
And I'm
motions-
all for it, but I didn't hear much. Okay.
That was a motion, right?
yeah.
All for it.
Motions were made and seconded, any comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
457, claim contribution from the township, Jimmy, you want to?
Yes, the township received from the state, over $77,000 in funds which will only be used for the pension plans. One of the things you did earlier tonight when you approved the bills list is that you authorized payment of $35,000 towards the 2013 police, actually 2014 police MMO, which is the minimum municipal obligation. This is the balance of the money we received from the state historically is used as the township's contribution to the 457 plan. So what Tammy and Danielle have done is calculated that it would be a contribution of 6.4%, which would use up the funds contributed by the state and cost the township $84.71. So we're looking for you to approve the contribution and approve the rate of 6.4%.
Move the approval.
Part of it was for 213.
I'll second it.
The rest of it, and they just took the difference.
Second. Motion is made and seconded. Any comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item is proposed road improvements. This will get you going, Brian. We had discussions early in the summer of the board about long-term solutions to some of the problems with the roads, where we're spending our most money for maintenance and where the most complaints are coming from. So the board, with John and David, asked if I come up with some proposals. So with I came up with some ideas along the road crew, and we got Ken Yerrick, engineer, to do just two-dimensional design work and then come up with estimated prices to get the work done. That's where that one $900 item was. That was part of that. So I don't have the total here, but I will read off the road and very basic description and then the price that the engineer gave us. Black Horse Road, a drainage improvement and paving. The length of Black Horse Road between Route 100 and Route 401. Engineer's estimate's $454,320. St. Andrews Lane, paving and drainage improvements for the length from Upper Eastland Township's paved portion, or from West Vincent Township's paved portion toward Route 401 to that paved portion of St. Andrews Road. Paving and drainage improvements, it's $340,440. Jane Lane, this is to do drainage and paving on the portion of Jane Lane from Birch Run Road to the top of the hill traveling toward Birch Runville. I think it's a length of 1,700 feet. That includes putting a drain pipe under Birch Run Road. Estimated price is $251,760. Louise Lane, the drainage improvements from Adelphia Lane going toward West Pipeline Township, which would be south. Is that right on Louise Lane?
East or west or north? I think it's east.
Okay, east on Louise Lane. That's drainage improvements only. That's $58,800.
Did you say 800?
$58,800. Davis Culvert on Davis Lane, very close to Birch Run Road. There's a steel pipe that serves as a bridge, and it's in pretty bad shape, and there's been some real destructive effects on the road and on adjoining properties in the last couple of years. We are going to attempt to, well not attempt, we're going to mitigate some of that problem by paving and constructing a retaining wall this fall yet. But to put in a new bridge or culvert, or however you refer to it, engineer's estimate is $270,100. And that's it. I've also requested prices on paving and drainage on Sawmill Road and on the remainder of St. Matthews Road, and those aren't in yet. The purpose behind this was, I know that we would like to come up with a longer plan looking further into the future on what we need to spend money on. The reality of it is with numbers like that, we can't do it with current income. So my recommendation is, as roadmaster, that we seriously consider doing all these projects as soon as we can. How to fund them is something, as supervisor, I'm not sure how we would do that. I know that there's some reasons why it should be done now, and in the long term would actually be a savings, but it is a lot of money.
Quickly, I just added up, it's a little over $1.4 million.
Yeah,
But there's a 20% contingency in there,
right.
not being that, involved in things. Is that typical?
Yes. Very much so.
Do you use it often?
Depends on how the project goes.
And, I mean, a lot of it depends on what you run into.
You figure on having it included, and then it's savings if you don't do it. That's, if the engineer says it's in there, you better put it in there.
And the engineering would be the construction administration and inspection on these jobs.
And also the preparing the bid documents. That's what runs the price up very high. That's a lot of work involved in that.
So you're presenting this to us, and then we're going to have to figure out how to do it, when to do it, and pay for it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a roadmaster decision. A project like this is a big deal for the township for a long time. So it does solve a lot of the problem areas where we get the most complaints from residents, and some safety issues, and this doesn't cut into the regular plans next year. I'm going to propose that we do some work on Flint Road and Old Kimmerer Road, both drainage work and repaving, and some of Horseshoe Trail needs work, and then some oil and chip. The problem is, until we get through the winter, it's really hard to make a 1 year at a time proposal because you don't know what the roads are going to come out of winter like. I feel like last year was really hard on the roads. We spent a lot more than what we wanted to. So best thing to do is talk about it, so I thought time to get it on the agenda. So, Chris.
I made an observation or two, which I thought was kind of interesting. You spoke of Flint Road and Kimmerton Road, and because I sort of live on those roads, and I've said to David, I never want them paved because then everybody wants to drive on them. We just want the potholes filled. But one of the observations I made was that those areas on Flint Road and Kimberton Road that are always wet, they're actually run through the swamp, they're the best part of the road. In other words, they never break up. It's the parts of the road that are higher land, that are not in the swamp area where the road breaks up and they get the potholes. And I remember years ago, they used to ditch along the side of the road so that water, I guess, as it was running down the sides of the road, wouldn't perk underneath and break up the asphalt. And I noticed that's never done anymore. I used to see a grader would go, virtually every road in the township would be graded on the side so that the water couldn't get underneath the asphalt and break it apart. And the other thing was I noticed that Pikeland, East Pikeland, where Yellow Springs is, I noticed that they frequently will oil and put chippings on a road before it gets bad. In other words, when it gets little hairline cracks in it, then they spray it with the tar oil and they put the chippings on. I guess that prevents any perking of the water through the surface to break it up. Just some, as a roadmaster, those things, observations might be useful.
Right, well, I appreciate the input. One thing that we found is the reason that areas on those roads that are in low areas don't break up as much as there's a tremendous amount of rock been put in under those roads, probably from the time they were first recognized as roads, 200 years ago, because you couldn't get through them, so people would throw rocks and stones and gravel in to dry them up. Because when we dig up an area like that, there's always a couple feet of stone underneath it, whereas the rest of the road doesn't have, some of them has no stone on there, only the old oil and chip roads put in back in the 50s and 60s. So that's what happens. And when you were saying about the increased traffic and the bad bridges on Flint and St. Matthews, one way to control the traffic would be not to fix those roads.
Oh, I agree.
Just to leave them continue to.
But I know the Kimber the amount of traffic since they built that is huge. I can't imagine. See, the thing is with the Cutler property, I know that the competition for St. Matthews and Pewtown Road to get out to 113 is going to be unbelievable. It already does back up to the, all the way. They're trying to get to 113, and if I were in the Toll Brothers subdivision there, I just go down Flint Road, Kimberton Road to 113, and first of all, it's a shorter distance, by far shorter, and no traffic. You have to put a traffic light at 113 in Old Kimberton Road. There's going to be so many people trying to get out.
That's going to happen someday. I hope it's not
Yeah, not my lifetime, I hope.
Google Maps.
But anyhow, the way to stop it is to stop subdivisions. The way to stop the subdivisions is to somehow try to come up with some way of preserving open land or bonding open land, or the town, or what Dietrich was gonna do, where you somehow you float a bond, you buy into the bond, you buy the property, you develop, the township finds somebody to develop the property in larger parcels, and then you sell it.
And you pointed out that some large portions of southern Chester County are very desirable to live in, and seem like they're immune to development. And the reason is that's all under private ownership, and the owners want to keep it that way, and they've leased most of it. That hasn't happened in West Vincent Township to an extent in that area.
Well, yeah, my only point is that
along Old Kimberton Road has been done a lot, but the Brincoed tract and the Wilson tract, the old Atchall tract, Wheeler Ames tract, they all are eligible for development.
But if the developer knew that there was a huge cost in infrastructure, then they would say, I'd rather develop Tina Miller's property right on 113 than go into the hinterlands of the Dietrich property.
Right.
Or, you know.
Right. Right, there's no easy answer to it. And even, as you said, or if we could get the builder at the time of the subdivision approval to put up a tremendous amount of money for road improvements, that still doesn't provide maintenance down the road. It only gets, part of a road built because state law doesn't allow us to get real hard on developers about making off-site improvements other than the roads that actually front the property that they own. And we can ask for voluntary contributions. Sometimes we get them, lots of times it doesn't happen. Okay. Suzanne?
Ken, it seems, are you going to be paving all the dirt roads, the ones that you've talked about?
I'm not going to do anything on my own. The board's going to make that
I
decision.
understand,
Let me make that clear.
All right, so, as my southern friends would say, y'all and all y'all are going to approve this or not. And Black Horse, St. Andrews, Janney, DeWeese, Davis are all partially dirt roads. Is the intention to have them no longer be dirt and be paved?
The proposal calls to pave the length, the entire part of gravel, Black Horse Road, the entire part of gravel, St. Andrews, 1,700 feet of the gravel part of Jane Lane, and about 150 feet or 200 feet of Davis Lane, immediately outside of the culvert that would be replaced. Is that all the roads that are on there that I missed anything?
Do fuel taxes pay for, fuel taxes only pay for federal roads or state roads?
No, liquid fuel funds, that's what we pay for the repair of the Horseshoe Trail. That's,
This year, it was $160,000 that we got in liquid fuel funds. Doesn't go very far.
No.
Next year, it's going to increase to about, under the Highway Act adopted by the state of Pennsylvania, next year it increases to approximately $200,000. But again, it's, a small amount in terms of the needs.
and I think in 3 years, that amount drops to $35,000.
Yeah, the act approved by the state legislature has a bump up for each year of 5 years, and then it's what we call a cliff, and it falls off the cliff and goes back to a level which is pre-2012. Very pre-2012. I mean, it's a significant.
$35,000.
Yeah, very significant decrease. I think ever since I've been here, which is about 10 years, we've gotten at least $150,000 unless the state changes the law, it's gonna drop to basically a third or less of that in 5 years.
Okay, Maria?
First, thank you for putting this together because it does give us a picture of what's going on in the future of our roads. Understanding that the dirt roads are expensive to maintain as dirt roads, do we keep running tracks on how much we spend on each of these roads so that it becomes, you know, we can actually look at both sides of the coin when looking at it? I mean, some of these roads, like Janie Lane, I gotta tell you, I drove that recently, and you do take your life in your hands, so that's a scary one. I don't drive the other ones are somewhat flat. So I'm just wondering, like Black Horse at almost at $500,000, how much do we spend to maintain that road on a yearly basis? Like, what's the payback on
I can give you an estimate
$500,000?
on it. The payback is a long time. It's a long time, but when we were putting the drainage out there last year, there was a lot of demand from the residents to pave the road.
Well, I understand that, but it's $500,000 without any way to pay for it.
We're putting accurate numbers together this year because the major expense is to stone and grade the roads. We always were able to keep track of the grading, but we never were able to get a handle on the stone, but the rotary wall has a scale on it, so we're keeping track of how many tons of stone we put on each road. So that's going to be an important part of the plan.
Well, I appreciate that this is at least out in the public where we can have, as you said, it's a start of a discussion, and that's pretty important.
Any other comments? Brian?
Maria just mentioned it's out in the public. Is this thing going to be the proposal or the outline that you're looking at in your handbooks going to be posted on the township website?
I don't see why not. It's not confidential anyway, is it? It's a working document, that needs to be understood. I mean,
I understand that part.
I don't want it to go up and say that it's a done deal, because it's not.
But the other part is if you don't publish it or you don't post it, then people speculate, and there's all kinds of accusations being made about, well, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that, and the other thing. At least this way.
I'm sure you'll do plenty of that,
here.
Brian, you don't need to have me help. It's okay to leave you up on the web.
It's just gotta be, you know, a project under consideration label.
Yeah. Yep. So, any other comments on that? We'll go to the next issue. Next item on the budget, which is budget issue 2018.
This is your item, John.
Kind of dovetails into what we just had, but I've only been a supervisor for a few months, and it just seems like we need a long-range plan, so I talked to Jim, and we as supervisors can't really get in the room and talk about such things. But I think we need to develop a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan that encompasses things like budget surplus, trails, sidewalks, road projects, what else did I miss?
Open space.
Open space.
Debt retirement.
Debt
I
retirement.
don't know how that's going to happen.
But I think with debt retirement, what I meant by that was showing what we owe and showing how much we're paying every year, so it makes sense to you.
We actually have a schedule for that.
No, I know, but I'm talking about a 5-year plan, you know, as part of potentially as part of the budget, a separate sheet or two, whatever, that we can just throw some numbers at, realizing that they're guesses at this point, but it's a start. For instance, we talk about trails all the time, and Jim and I had a nice conversation earlier this week, but I have no idea where all the trails are. And after what Ken just said, I don't think we're gonna work on all those trails next year. It's just not gonna happen. But if we can prioritize and throw some numbers at it, it may never come to pass, but we have to plan for it. And so that was my idea and what I'd like us to consider as the board to develop a 5-year plan. If that's having a workshop here, so we can talk about it, so be it.
I think it's a good idea. What do you think, David? Sure. So how do you want to proceed?
Just schedule a workshop. I don't see how we can do it without being in the public eye.
Right, right.
And so, and I know we all go to a lot of different meetings and stuff, so, but just pick a meeting when we start it and see what happens. I think there's a hand up there.
Oh, I'm sorry, Suzanne.
Could I suggest that you perhaps put together a budget going back perhaps maybe 5 years of what the proposed budget was and what the actual budget was, so that whoever is on your consultation committee can then look forward. You would then see the percentage of increases in the budget or where things really went wrong, and how you might better plan for the future. I mean, it was something when I was in business that you had to do all the time. It wasn't just, left up to the
I think
whims.
we're working on that too.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
And we can do that every year.
So that way people could take a look and see.
Okay, any other comments? Yes.
I think that's a great idea, and I think once you start identifying what projects that are on the plan, you can start identifying maybe alternate funding sources, the grants, and different programs, and then sometimes you need to plan a couple of years and do some legwork to get those grants, but if you have a plan done and can prioritize, I think it puts you one step forward.
Any other comments? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
You do, so moved.
Second.
Any comment? All in favor?
Like that one.